Good evening, traveler. You've arrived at a quiet place, a soft space made only for rest. The day can fall away now, piece by piece, like sand slipping through open fingers. The world outside can wait. The noise, the light, the movement, all can fade. For this moment, there is only calm, there is only breath, there is only the slow rhythm of stillness. Rest your mind. The journey begins in silence if you wish, or simply soften your gaze. Let your shoulders loosen, your hands settle, your heartbeat steady. The air is cool and slow, the kind that makes time stretch like a ribbon. You are safe here, surrounded by quiet sound, by air that hums with peace. Night has arrived without effort. It spreads like a gentle tide, curling around the edges of your thoughts. The stars are distant, pale, patient, watching as they have watched for thousands of years. Somewhere beyond them, the echoes of history are waiting. They whisper softly, not with urgency, but with invitation. This is not a story of conquest or crowns. It is not about victory or power. It is a slower kind of history. The one that breathes beneath the noise, the one that lingers in stone, in wind, in the soft ash of forgotten fires. Tonight, we will follow that quiet thread, drifting gently through the long corridors of time. Imagine the sound of wind before cities, before language filled the air with names. Imagine the earth as it once was, vast, untamed, peaceful in its enormity. The land sleeps under frost and cloud. The horizon glows faintly with the reflection of ice. This is the world before us, the world of the Neanderthals. But do not think of them as rough or wild. Let go of every image drawn in haste by old books and early guesses. Think instead of warmth, of strength, of stillness beneath cold skies. They were people of endurance, compact, powerful, calm. Their lives moved at the pace of nature itself, slow, circular, endlessly patient. The snow drifts gently against the stone walls of their shelters. A small fire flickers inside, its light stretching across faces and fur. You can hear the faint crackle of burning wood, the quiet sound of breathing, the soft clink of stone shaped in practiced hands. Outside, the wind hums through frozen air, but within the cave there is peace, the kind that belongs to survival, not struggle. As the flames dance, shadows move slowly across the walls. Shapes of animals appear, deer, bison, horses, drawn not to be seen, but to be remembered, each movement deliberate, each line a moment of connection between hand, pigment, and memory. There is no hurry, only focus. There is no noise, only rhythm. In this place, time does not pass. It settles like dust, soft and weightless. The Neanderthals do not chase the future. They live entirely within the present, wrapped in fur and firelight, content in the nearness of family, in the warmth of bodies, in the repetition of simple, necessary acts. They do not speak much, yet they understand each other fully. A glance, a gesture, a breath. Enough. In their silence lives a kind of wisdom modern hearts have forgotten. The wisdom to observe, to wait, to move with the earth instead of against it. As we enter their world, feel the air grow colder, the light dimmer, the sound softer. Every inhale tastes faintly of smoke and stone. Every exhale becomes a small cloud that fades into the dark. It is peaceful here. In this ancient stillness, the body rests, the mind unwinds, and history becomes a lullaby, steady, endless, kind. Tonight, we travel not by foot or map, but by the slow pulse of memory. We wander gently into the age of ice, guided by stars that have never dimmed, listening to the echoes of those who came before, letting thoughts drift like snow, letting breath match the rhythm of the wind. Each word is a small ember, each moment a quiet spark in the long night of time. We are not here to learn, we are here to rest, to feel the calm weight of the past settle over us like a soft blanket of ancient light. And as the last traces of the modern world fade away, you may sense it, a calm presence waiting just beyond the firelight, a figure strong and still, watching the stars through falling snow. He is the beginning of our story, the first dream of humankind. He is the Neanderthal, and the night, like history itself, is ready to begin. The Neanderthals, endurance in the cold. The Ice Age begins in silence, a hush so deep it seems to slow the world itself. A pale sky stretches above an endless white plain, soft and dim beneath the weight of winter. The sun is little more than a memory here, its light caught in the mist, its warmth a distant echo. The wind drifts slowly, patient and low, moving across the frozen land with the gentleness of breath. Each gust shapes the snow into quiet ridges, small waves frozen in motion, smooth and perfect beneath the faint glow of dawn. Far across the open plain, there is movement, a soft shimmer of light inside a hollow of stone. The faint orange flicker of fire trembles against the walls of a cave, barely touching the air before it fades again. Around the fire, shadows shift with unhurried grace, rising and falling like a slow tide. They are the Neanderthals, gathered close, wrapped in thick fur, their forms steady and strong against the cold. The air is sharp, yet calm. Each breath escapes as a cloud that drifts and disappears. The crackle of burning wood breaks the quiet just enough to remind the night that life endures. Nothing here feels rushed, nothing forced, only the steady rhythm of survival, the quiet partnership between flame and frost. Outside, the wind hums a low song, circling the world of snow and stone. Inside, the fire glows softly, holding back the dark, whispering warmth into the stillness of an ancient, waiting world. They stood shorter than us, built not for speed, but for survival, bodies shaped by cold, by time, by patience. Their shoulders were broad, steady as stone, their chests deep and full, drawing in the frozen air with quiet strength. Each breath rose in a mist that drifted and vanished, a rhythm as constant as the wind across the plains. The Neanderthals were compact and powerful, their muscles dense, their frames balanced, every motion deliberate and sure. They carried within them the calm endurance of a world that moved slowly. Their bones were thick, holding the memory of effort and resilience. Their hands were large, fingers broad, built for creation, not destruction. They could shape stone with gentle precision, splitting flint into tools, sharp as ice, yet handled with care. Nothing in their touch was hurried, even their grip, firm and certain, carried the patience of countless winters. These were people of the elements, of snow, of fire, of breath. Every movement they made spoke of understanding, of cooperation with the world around them. Their height mattered little in the silence of the Ice Age. What mattered was warmth, the way their bodies kept it, shared it, preserved it. Beneath the furs that wrapped them, their skin glowed faintly from the light of the fire, a soft bronze under layers of shadow and smoke. Their strength was not loud or boastful, it was the quiet strength of endurance, the power of stillness against the endless wind. When they walked, the snow bent gently beneath them. Footprints pressed deep, then filled again with drifting powder. Each step left a mark, not of dominance, but of belonging. They moved as though the land itself knew them, accepted them, remembered them. The sound of their steps was soft and rhythmic, a heartbeat in the frozen world. They were not creatures of struggle, but of balance, perfectly tuned to the cold, the light, the earth. Every sinew, every breath, every heartbeat carried the knowledge of adaptation, of peace within hardship. In the hush of the Ice Age, they did not fight the world to survive. They simply became a part of it, standing firm, quiet and strong, like mountains made of flesh and will. Their days moved with the rhythm of light and flame, each moment unfolding at the pace of breath. When the pale sun rose above the white horizon, they stirred quietly from their shelters, stepping into the slow brightness of morning. The snow beneath their feet gave a soft sound like a sigh from the earth itself. The air was cool, clear, and filled with the faint scent of smoke. In this world, time was not something to chase, it was something to live within. They walked together to gather what the land offered, stone for shaping, wood for warmth, bone for craft. Every gesture had intention, every motion a quiet purpose. They worked with patience, hands steady and careful, turning rough materials into tools that fit perfectly in the palm. Sparks rose when stone met stone, small stars born from effort and rhythm. The work was not loud, not hurried, but slow and certain, guided by generations of knowing. Around the hearth, life unfolded like a circle. The fire sat at the center, its light steady, its warmth reaching into every corner of the cave. The crackle of wood filled the air with comfort, a soft percussion that marked the passing hours. Women mended hides with slender bone needles, stitching carefully by firelight. Men sat nearby, carving handles or smoothing spears, their faces calm, focused, untroubled. Children played quietly with pebbles and twine, learning the movements that would one day sustain them. There was no urgency here, no sound of rush or demand. The rhythm of their lives matched the slow turning of the world. They paused when the light faded, rested when the body asked. Theirs was a life measured by warmth, by need, by kindness, shared in silence. In every motion there was balance, not ambition, not greed, but the simple act of being. Outside, the wind whispered through the stones, carrying the breath of snow and sky. Inside, the fire glowed softly, reflecting in gentle eyes, casting shadows that danced and faded. In this place, among the Neanderthals, existence itself was peace, a quiet harmony between earth, fire, and the enduring rhythm of life. Their strength was quiet, the kind that did not shout or demand, but simply existed, steady and unbroken, like the roots of ancient trees beneath the snow. It was a strength woven into every breath they took, every motion shaped by need, by patience, by understanding. Their arms could lift heavy stone without strain, their muscles moved with ease and purpose, each gesture deliberate, measured, graceful in its simplicity. They did not rush, for the world around them did not hurry. The wind carried no urgency, the earth offered no schedule, and they lived within that stillness as if it were the only rhythm that ever mattered. Their hands were broad and sure, built for creation, for care. With fingers hardened by cold and time, they shaped flint and bone into the tools of their quiet survival. The sound of stone meeting stone echoed softly through the air, a calm percussion of focus and precision. Sparks would rise, flickering like small golden insects before fading into the dark. There was no frustration in their work, no tension. Only attention, only the slow unfolding of intention becoming form. When they built a fire, it was not with haste, but with ritual simplicity. They placed each branch carefully, knowing how it would catch, how the flame would spread. When they carved bone, they followed its natural curve, letting the shape reveal itself beneath their steady hands. Every act they performed was a conversation with the material, a gentle cooperation between will and nature. They did not force, they guided. They did not conquer, they understood. The world around them was vast and demanding, yet they met it with calm rather than defiance. The mountains, the snow, the hunger, all were constants and all were accepted. They endured not by resisting, but by flowing within the demands of their time. In this harmony lay their true strength, a union of body and mind that never fractured under pressure. Their movements carried a rhythm like the heart of the earth, slow, deep, unchanging. Even in the coldest winds, their breath remained steady. Even under weight, their balance did not falter. They embodied the art of patience, of resilience expressed through quiet grace. Each action, from striking flint to lifting stone, was an act of calm control. Their power was not in dominance, but in presence, a grounded certainty that spoke of trust between themselves and the world they lived in. In that frozen landscape where life asked for everything, they gave what was needed, never more, never less. They were strength without aggression, power without noise, motion without haste. In their silence, there was wisdom. In their endurance, there was peace. They stood as part of the earth itself, enduring, still, and profoundly alive. Inside their broad skulls, beneath the quiet weight of time, the Neanderthals carried minds larger than our own, minds that moved with care, not haste, and saw the world not through words but through patterns, rhythm, and change. Their thoughts unfolded slowly, like snow melting in spring light, each idea forming with the patience of seasons. They did not rush to understand. They allowed meaning to reveal itself, layer by layer, until the world around them became a language of movement and silence. Their intelligence was not about invention or ambition, but about harmony. They watched the clouds drift and knew when the air would shift. They studied the flight of birds and understood the distance of rain. The color of the sky, the curve of frost on a branch, the smell of damp earth beneath stone. These were signs, messages written in nature's hand, and they could read them all. Their perception was wide and still, like the calm surface of frozen water, reflecting everything without distortion. Every detail mattered to them, the weight of a stone in the palm, the warmth of the wind against fur, the sound of snow underfoot. Nothing passed unnoticed. Their awareness stretched beyond what they could see, reaching into the invisible rhythm of life itself. To live in their world was to be awake in every sense, to feel the texture of air, to hear the difference between silence and stillness, to know when the earth shifted beneath the ice. They did not think in words, but in sensations, in images, in the flow of experience. Their minds were maps of the natural world, etched with memory and instinct, shaped by generations of quiet observation. They could sense direction without looking, sense warmth beneath layers of frost, sense danger not through fear, but through balance. Each thought was a slow circle, a returning motion, calm and deliberate. When they gazed into the distance, it was not to search for something new, but to understand what was already there. Their thoughts moved like the wind through grass, soft, invisible, continuous. They did not name the world, they mirrored it, reflected it, became a part of it. In their silence lived deep awareness, in their patience lived wisdom. Theirs was a mind tuned to nature's breath, precise and observant, yet never restless. Within the cold, they found clarity. Within stillness, they found knowledge. The Neanderthal mind was not a storm of thought, but a steady flame in endless winter, warm, constant, and endlessly aware. Each night, when the sky dimmed and the air grew heavy with frost, they gathered around the fire. The flame was the heart of their world, small but certain, glowing softly against the cold stone. It crackled in gentle rhythm, its sparks lifting into the dark like golden dust. The sound of it filled the quiet space between their breaths, weaving warmth through the air. Around it, they sat close, their faces flickering between shadow and light, eyes calm, movements slow, wrapped in furs that whispered softly against the ground. The fire danced along the walls of the cave, painting them in shifting shades of amber and smoke. Shadows bent and swayed, graceful and fluid, like memories coming to life. The walls glimmered with old markings, handprints, faint lines, stories left by those who came before. The flame made them move again, made them breathe. The past and the present met here, in the soft rhythm of firelight and silence. They cooked their meals over the embers, the scent of roasted meat mingling with the cool stone air. Children rested in laps, half asleep, their hair glinting with the glow. The older ones spoke quietly, their voices low and unhurried, their words carried softly by the smoke. There was no need for much to be said. The fire spoke for them, its warmth a promise, its light a gathering place, its persistence a quiet act of love. Outside, the wind slid through the mouth of the cave, soft and distant. Inside, the fire hummed, steady and alive. It held back the dark, marking a border between cold and comfort, between solitude and togetherness. The glow reached their faces like a slow heartbeat, reminding each of them that life endured in every flicker, in every breath shared beside the flame. The night stretched on and the world outside froze in stillness, but within that small circle of light there was peace, the warmth of bodies, the whisper of calm conversation, the slow exhale of contentment. The fire was not only heat, not only light, it was safety, it was home, it was the gentle center of their ancient, unspoken bond. On the smooth walls of the cave, traces of red and black linger, soft and ancient, pressed there by careful hands long ago. The air inside is cool and still, carrying the faint scent of ash and dust. The light of the fire flickers gently, reaching across the stone to touch the markings, and for a moment they seem to move, quiet echoes of memory waking within the rock. Hands covered in pigment pressed gently against the wall, leaving behind shapes like whispers, pale against the darker stone. Each print is a reminder of presence, of life observed and remembered. They dip fingers into earth-colored powder, ochre and charcoal, and trace the outlines of animals that once roamed the plains above. Horses bend their necks mid-stride, bison curve with power and calm, the lines simple yet alive. These drawings are not made in haste or for display. They are a rhythm, a conversation between memory and the living moment. Beside the fire, small ornaments lie scattered, beads of bone, shells smoothed by water, threads of sinew woven into loops. They wear them not as decoration, but as gentle connection, reminders of kin, of land, of continuity. The materials carry warmth, their shapes carved with patience and understanding. Each piece speaks quietly of beauty, not loud or elaborate, but calm and enduring. The sound within the cave is soft and layered, the faint rasp of fingers on stone, the low hum of wind at the entrance, the distant echo of the flame's breath. The shadows bend and stretch as though listening, as though keeping these moments safe. In this space, creation is not an act of expression but of reflection. It is a mirror of stillness, a gesture of harmony between mind, hand, and earth. Their art is memory made visible, a slow unfolding of thought and feeling through color and form. Even in the cold, beauty persists. Simple, balanced, timeless. The red and black remain, deep within the stone, outlasting the seasons, the storms, and even the ones who made them. They are not forgotten. They are resting quietly in the silence of the cave, beneath the eternal breath of the firelight. When they met the early humans, it was not with fear or resistance, but with quiet recognition. They shared the same fires, the same tools, the same soft breath of survival beneath the cold sky. Around those flames they traded warmth, stories without words, and the simple rhythm of existence. Stone passed from hand to hand, firelight moved across familiar faces, and something unspoken connected them. Not as strangers, but as kin. For centuries they lived side by side, sometimes in separate shelters, sometimes beneath the same roof of stars. Their children played together in the snow, their footprints blending into one trail. The difference between them faded into the rhythm of life, a shared hunger, a shared warmth, a shared silence at the edge of the fire. Slowly the Neanderthals became part of the people who would follow. Their faces, their strength, their endurance did not disappear. They transformed, becoming threads woven into a larger fabric of humankind. Even now, in the pulse of our veins, their memory endures. Within every heartbeat, a quiet echo remains. The steady patience of a people who once shaped the world through calm and care. Their legacy is not carved in monuments or written in stone. It lives in our bodies, in our breath, in the quiet strength that rises when life grows cold. They are still with us, silent and unseen, in the rhythm of our hearts, in the warmth we share, in the calm that endures. The blood that once flowed beneath the ice still flows within us now, carrying with it the unbroken memory of endurance, of connection, of peace. Vietjo an nei tiengant deiba tram tu, noju so tu hongjuok thiu, fien ban hela gin vangun gongiak, sleep version, luai bokak, kau trau kam shuk, luai bokak, kau hoi gai suinge, luai bokak inaulien quan gen ton giao, viet kong vi fam, kau van troi chai va quan hut. Snow falls softly across the open plain, each flake a quiet fragment of light drifting through the pale air. The horizon stretches wide and endless, a meeting place of white and silver, where sky and earth blur into one calm breath. The wind moves gently, carrying with it the faint scent of wood smoke and frost, the whisper of something ancient, something nearing its end, yet unafraid. The land lies still beneath the fading sun, untouched and immense, holding the memory of every life that once moved upon it. In the heart of this silence, a single fire burns, small, steady, patient. Its flame flickers against the soft breath of wind, a pulse of warmth in the vast expanse of cold. Around it, the snow glows faintly, as if lit from within. Each ember rises and fades, drifting upward like small orange stars before disappearing into the white sky. The light bends gently, glimmering against the curve of fur and skin. A figure stands beside the flame, broad-shouldered, calm, still, the last Neanderthal. He stands without movement for a long time, his breath slow, visible in the air before him. His eyes reflect the firelight, steady and untroubled, holding the same quiet understanding that guided his kind for thousands of years. Around him, the snow thickens, falling in soft waves that blur his outline, painting him into the landscape he has always belonged to. There is no fear in his gaze, no sorrow in his stillness, only acceptance, deep and unspoken. The wind brushes against his face like a gentle hand. He turns slightly, watching the last traces of daylight melt across the horizon. The sky has turned to a soft grey-blue, the colour of calm water beneath ice. The sun sinks without sound, leaving behind a faint shimmer, a final thread of gold stretched thin across the world. He watches it fade, eyes half-lidded, as though memorizing the shape of light one last time. His hands, large and worn, rest at his sides. The skin is rough, the palms scarred from stone and bone, from the steady labor of survival. Yet even now there is grace in their stillness. Hands that once shaped tools, lifted children, and tended fires now rest with quiet dignity. The warmth of the flame brushes his knuckles, glows between his fingers. The snow gathers lightly on his shoulders, on the curve of his arms, melting as it touches his skin. He breathes deeply, and the world seems to breathe with him. Each exhale drifts upward, a faint cloud dissolving into the pale air. The sound of the fire grows softer, its crackle fading to a low murmur. The wind hums gently in return, a lullaby of endless plains and sleeping earth. The rhythm of it all, the breath, the flame, the wind, moves together, perfectly aligned, as if the entire world has slowed to match his heart. He steps closer to the fire, crouches slowly, and places another branch onto the coals. Sparks rise, small and golden, spinning upward into the snow. He watches them vanish, a faint smile in his eyes, though his mouth does not move. His thoughts flow quietly, without words, simple and clear. Warmth, endurance, peace. The flame responds with a low flicker, a quiet agreement. Around him, the marks of life remain. Footprints pressed into snow, tools resting by a stone, a fur laid near the fire where he once sat. Each sign is small, yet filled with meaning. There is no rush to erase them, no wind fierce enough to scatter them away. The land will hold them until morning, and perhaps beyond. In this place, even endings move slowly. He lifts his head again, gazing toward the horizon. The stars are beginning to appear, faint at first, then brighter, forming their old familiar patterns. They shine over the frozen plain just as they did for his ancestors, just as they will for those who come after. Their light touches his face softly, mingling with the fading fire. He watches them without longing, without thought, only recognition. His breath steadies once more, the cold deepens, but it feels gentle now, as if the air itself wishes him rest. He turns slightly toward the wind, his fur cloak rippling quietly, and then stills again. In his stillness there is power, not the power of dominance, but of presence, a kind of peace that comes when nothing more needs to be done. The world is complete, and so is he. The fire burns lower. The snow continues to fall, slow and endless. The glow fades from orange to amber, from amber to ash. Yet the warmth lingers, held in the stones, in the air, in the quiet space between each breath. He does not move away. He stands within the circle of light until the flame becomes a faint shimmer, a heartbeat of color in the dark. When at last he turns from it, his steps make no sound. The snow accepts him completely, soft beneath his feet. His shadow moves across the whiteness, gentle, unbroken. He walks toward the horizon, where the stars touch the earth in silver silence. The wind follows him, wrapping him in a calm embrace. Behind him, the fire sighs once, a small exhale of light, then fades. There is no final cry, no trace of struggle. Only the hush of snow falling over the plain, covering the marks of his passage. The land folds around him, as if tucking him into the heart of winter. The world exhales, long and low, and settles into stillness once more. The night deepens. The stars shimmer brighter now, countless and calm, their reflections glinting across the frozen earth. Somewhere beneath them, warmth lingers in the place where the fire once burned, a slow pulse beneath the ice, like a memory that refuses to fade. The last Neanderthal has become part of the quiet. His breath, his strength, his patience dissolve into the world that shaped him, He is not gone, not truly. He is in the snow that falls gently on the plains, in the warmth that rises from every human fire, in the steady rhythm of hearts that still endure. His presence flows forward through time, carried silently in the blood and memory of all who came after. And as the night settles, the world feels at peace, endless, white, and soft as sleep. The snow continues to fall, the wind hums its quiet song, and far beneath the stars, the last Neanderthal rests within the stillness he always knew. The flame of his life has dimmed, but its warmth remains. Quiet, eternal, woven into the calm breath of the earth. Tomoe Gozen, the Silent Warrior. Morning mist drifts across still ponds, folding the landscape in layers of silver and pale blue. The air is soft, carrying the distant echo of drums, low and steady, like the slow heartbeat of the earth. Bamboo leaves sway gently in the breeze, their movement delicate, their whisper light as breath. The world is calm here, suspended between night and day, where light seeps slowly over quiet mountains and polished stones. In this stillness, time feels slower, as if each moment is allowed to stretch and rest. The scent of damp earth rises, blending with the faint sweetness of pine and river water. A crane glides above the surface of a pond, wings wide, silent in its grace. The ripples it leaves behind fade almost as soon as they appear. This is the world of ancient Japan, a land of patience, precision, and quiet strength, a land where beauty is not sought but noticed, where every motion holds meaning. And among the warriors who once moved through this peace, one name remains soft yet enduring, like a whisper carried through mist. Tomoe Gozen. From her earliest years, Tomo lived within a rhythm of discipline and quiet purpose. Dawn would arrive softly, the first light spreading across wooden floors and paper screens. The air was cool, touched by the scent of pine and distant rain. In that gentle hour, she began her training, her movements slow and deliberate, her breath matching the world's calm pulse. She learned the bow first, a graceful arc of wood and string balanced perfectly between strength and stillness. She would draw it back, inhale deeply, and hold, the silence between breath and release becoming its own form of meditation. The arrow's flight was never hurried. It glided through air as if guided by the stillness she carried inside. Then came the sword, its weight both grounding and familiar. She did not raise it to conquer, but to understand balance, the harmony between motion and pause. Each step, each swing was precise, controlled, and full of quiet intent. Her teacher would say little. Instruction came through repetition, through the whisper of wind across the training yard, through the heartbeat that steadied in her chest. Even the sound of her horse's hooves became part of her discipline. Slow, steady, certain, a rhythm she carried into every motion of her life. She rode through misted fields and narrow paths, her posture upright, her gaze calm. Her childhood was not marked by noise or praise, but by refinement, a daily practice of patience, observation, and grace. In every gesture, she learned the language of control, of clarity. Long before she would ride into battle, Tomo had already mastered what mattered most, the art of stillness, the balance between movement and peace, the strength of quiet precision. Every breath was measured, drawn in with calm intention, released with quiet grace. The sound of her breathing filled the still air, soft and steady, merging with the faint rustle of wind beyond the training yard. Each inhale brought balance, each exhale let go of effort, leaving only focus behind. Her movements followed the rhythm of her lungs. Slow, precise, unbroken. In her stillness, strength gathered quietly. Her muscles did not strain, they flowed, responding to thought and breath as one. The wooden floor beneath her feet felt cool and grounding, anchoring her to the moment. She could feel the weight of the air, the pulse of her heartbeat, the quiet hum of her own existence. Nothing moved quickly, yet everything was alive with presence. Tomo learned that control was more powerful than speed, that a single movement performed with awareness carried more truth than 100 done in haste. Her hands traced the curve of her sword with care, her eyes following its polished edge as it caught the light. The silence around her deepened, rich and complete, like a held note that never ended. The world beyond her focus drifted away, the fields, the wind, even time itself. All that remained was rhythm, breath, movement, balance. Her eyes stayed soft but steady, always fixed on the horizon. She was neither tense nor still, but poised, like a wave before it breaks or the air before dawn. In this calm state, she became her breath, her body, her mind, all flowing together, quiet and whole. Every beat of her heart, every controlled motion, was a meditation on patience. Tomo Gozen, the silent warrior, trained not to conquer the world, but to master the infinite stillness within. When she rode into battle, the world seemed to slow. The air grew heavy, filled with the still rhythm of wind moving over distant grass. Dust rose like smoke above the open fields, curling softly into pale spirals that caught the morning light. Every sound became muted, the beat of her horse's hooves, the quiet hum of wind through banners, the soft creak of armor as it shifted with her movement. It was not chaos, not fury, but calm precision unfolding within motion. The battlefield stretched before her like a vast canvas, brushed with earth tones and sunlight. Her armor gleamed faintly beneath the hazy sky, each plate catching the light in a soft shimmer, gold and silver mingling with the dust. She moved through that light as though carried by it, each turn and breath deliberate, each gesture a measured line in a painting that would soon fade with the day. Her presence carried balance, a fusion of grace and control. When she raised her arm, the motion was smooth, like the stroke of a calligrapher's brush. When she shifted in the saddle, her body and horse flowed as one, guided by trust, by rhythm, by breath. Around her, the field was alive with slow movement, as though the world had chosen to breathe in unison. There was no sound of anger, no clamor of fear, only the deep pulse of awareness. She could feel the vibration of the ground, the weight of still air pressing close, the quiet heartbeat of life within the dust. The sunlight touched her faceplate, soft and warm, wrapping her in a moment that felt both endless and fleeting. In this suspended silence, the battlefield became art, not of conquest but of harmony. Each motion carried meaning, each pause held peace. The lines of light and shadow, the arc of her blade, the rhythm of her horse's stride, all blended into one serene composition. For Tomo Gozen, the battle was not a storm to be survived. It was a dance of precision and breath, a living painting drawn upon the earth. Quiet, poised, eternal. Tomoe led not through volume or command, but through quiet certainty. Her presence steadied the hearts of those around her. In moments when the wind grew heavy and the world felt uncertain, her calm did not falter. She stood with the stillness of stone, her gaze clear, her breath slow, her movements measured. Even before she spoke, those near her felt anchored, as though her silence itself carried direction. She never hurried, never hesitated. Every gesture, every decision unfolded with purpose. When she raised her hand, others knew what to do, not because she ordered them, but because her composure invited trust. She understood that leadership was not control, but rhythm, a steady beat that others could align with, a calm pulse that guided without force. Her armor glinted softly beneath the muted sun, a shimmer that matched her steady breath. Dust moved gently around her feet, stirred only by the wind. She waited when patience was needed and acted when the moment arrived. No sooner, no later. Her discipline was her language, her silence, her strength. Those who followed her found comfort in her presence. She did not promise victory, she offered steadiness. She carried herself with quiet confidence, a certainty that strength was not loud or sudden, but constant. Her eyes revealed focus, not intensity, but depth, the kind that saw everything clearly, without judgment, without haste. When others trembled, she remained composed, her heart beating in harmony with the stillness she created. Her leadership was not built on command, but on trust, shaped by patience, anchored in peace. In the soft rhythm of her movements and the calm of her voice, Tomo Gozen showed what true power could be. The quiet mastery of the self, the grace to guide without noise, and the strength to lead through silence. When her battles were over, Tomo stepped away without sound. The world around her continued to move, waves breaking on distant shores, wind brushing through tall grass, clouds drifting across pale skies. Yet she no longer moved within it as a warrior. The rhythm of her days slowed until even time itself seemed to soften around her. History says little of her final days. There are no records of farewell, no words left behind. Her name drifts through time like mist over still water, present yet untouchable. Some believe she turned toward the mountains, finding peace where streams wound through cedar forests and moss-covered stones. There, she may have lived quietly, tending to her fire as she once tended to her sword, with patience, balance, and grace. Others say she simply disappeared one morning, stepping beyond the world's edge as quietly as a falling leaf. Her armor, folded and set aside, gleamed faintly in the morning light. Her horse, loyal and calm, was set free to wander among the fields. There was no ceremony, no mark of ending, only stillness, deep and complete, as if the air itself had bowed in respect. Her absence was not an emptiness, but a continuation of her presence. The silence she left behind carried her essence, calm, disciplined, unbroken. Her story lived not in monuments or memory, but in the quiet strength that endures within every act of patience, every breath drawn with care, every motion made without haste. In that stillness, she remained. The mountains kept her echo, the rivers carried her reflection, and the wind whispered her name only in passing. The world did not mourn her departure. It accepted it gently as part of its rhythm. Even now her spirit lingers, not as a shadow but as calm itself. She is the hush before dawn, the steady current beneath still water, the quiet grace found in balance. Tomo Gozen did not fade away. She simply returned to stillness, becoming one with the peace she had carried all her life. Centuries have passed, and still Tomo Gozen endures, not as a distant legend, but as a quiet presence that lingers in the gentle folds of time. The world has changed around her. The old fields are gone. The rivers have shifted their paths, and yet her name continues to drift softly through the ages, carried by the whisper of wind, through bamboo, and the calm rhythm of waves against the shore. In stories and art, she is remembered not as a conqueror, but as a figure of balance, a woman who lived between strength and stillness, whose power was drawn not from force, but from grace. Painters have captured her in muted colors, her armor gleaming faintly beneath a pale sun, her expression serene, her gaze unbroken. Poets have written of her as if she were the embodiment of a single breath, calm, measured, full of meaning yet free from desire. She moves through the pages of history like water flowing around stone, shaping everything it touches, leaving no mark of aggression, only the soft impression of harmony. Her name carries the sound of still water. It echoes quietly, smooth and enduring, reminding those who speak it that strength does not always roar. There is a rhythm to her legacy, a pulse of composure that continues beneath the surface of all who remember her. Her image, calm and sure, reflects the perfection of discipline, not rigid but fluid, not cold but composed. She stands as a reminder that mastery is not about domination but about understanding the quiet space between action and rest. When one imagines her now, it is not among battles or banners, but within silence, perhaps by a flowing river, her reflection trembling in the water's surface, her sword resting beside her knees. The air around her is still, and in that stillness there is clarity. She seems to listen to the world, to the endless song of wind, to the slow turning of the seasons. Her spirit is neither bound by time nor place. It exists wherever balance is found, in the steady hand of an artist, the patient breath of a craftsman, the calm resolve of someone who meets life's storms without resistance. Tomo Gozen remains a symbol of discipline, of composure, of grace under pressure. Her legacy is not carved in stone, but carried quietly in the way we move, the way we breathe, the way we choose calm over noise. She teaches without words that true strength lies in gentleness, that precision is its own kind of beauty, and that silence, when held with purpose, becomes its own language. Her memory lives not in triumph, but in restraint. The world may recall her battles, but it is her silence that truly defines her. The calm between movements, the moment before the arrow flies, the pause between breaths. It is in those spaces that her spirit still resides, reminding us that stillness is not emptiness, but the purest form of awareness. As centuries have unfolded, her name has crossed oceans and languages, whispered in the halls of history and the minds of those who admire balance over chaos. In her, the warrior and the artist are one. Her life became a canvas of precision, every action a brushstroke of intent. And though time has softened the details, her essence remains vivid, a portrait of poise that does not fade. In the quiet hours of dawn, when the mist rolls across the hills of Japan and the sound of a koto drifts softly through the air, one can almost sense her presence, not as a ghost, but as calm itself. She lives in the discipline of the sword, in the breath of the archer, in the patience of those who choose grace instead of haste. Her existence was not about glory, but about balance, a perfect alignment of spirit and motion. Now, as the world continues to move faster, her story endures like a pause between heartbeats, a reminder that stillness has power, that gentleness endures, that peace is its own kind of strength. She remains where silence meets focus, where movement becomes art, and where presence outlasts time. Tomo Gozen, the warrior of quiet strength, has not vanished. She lingers in the calm air of history, in every act of patience, in every moment of composure that holds the world steady. Her legacy is not loud, it does not fade. It continues in whispers, in the spaces between words, in the soft pulse of those who remember that discipline is not confinement, but freedom. The freedom to move with grace, to act with purpose, and to rest in stillness. The story closes as the sound of the koto fades, the last notes dissolving into the wind. The light shifts, the world grows quiet once more. And in that quiet she remains, balanced, eternal, serene, the echo of calm within the heart of time. The Ancient Mariners, Harmony with the Sea. The sea begins with a breath, a slow exhale that stirs the quiet edge of the shore. A low whisper drifts across the sand, carrying the scent of salt and distance. The first wave folds gently over the coast, its foam curling like silk before slipping back into the deep. Water rises, folds and falls again, moving in perfect rhythm. A rhythm older than memory, older than words. The horizon blurs into a veil of pale blue mist where the sky and the sea meet without a seam. The sound of the waves is soft, unhurried, like the pulse of the earth beneath the surface. Each crest moves with purpose, calm and eternal, touching the shore before fading into silence. The air carries the distant call of seabirds, their voices rising and falling in slow harmony with the water's breath. Light begins to spread across the ocean's skin. Silver first, then gold, then white. The sea shimmers as if waking from a long, gentle dream. There is peace here, vast and complete, where nothing is hurried and nothing ends. Across that calm distance, the first mariners once set sail. Their boats moved quietly upon the morning tide, guided not by maps or stars, but by the steady pulse of the sea itself. The ocean opened before them like a path made of light, and they followed, listening to the whispering rhythm that has never ceased. Long before maps were drawn, before names found their place upon the world, there were people who looked out across the open sea and listened. The water spoke in rhythms and patterns, in the soft rise and fall of tides that mark the passage of time. Guided by curiosity, not urgency, they began to build small boats from reeds, wood, and patience. Each piece was tied with care, shaped by hand, tested by touch. The boats floated lightly upon the calm surface, trembling with the promise of movement. They pushed away from the shore, their oars dipping into the water with slow precision. The sea responded in ripples, accepting them, carrying them forward. They followed the pull of the currents, the scent of salt and wind, the quiet voice of direction that came from the waves themselves. The air was cool, the horizon wide, and the world felt endless, yet gentle. Their journeys were quiet acts of wonder. There was no conquest in their leaving, no hunger for possession, no sense of escape. They simply wished to see what lay beyond the edge of the known world, to watch the curve of the horizon unfold, to feel the wind turn and guide them toward places unseen. The sound of the paddles rose and fell, matching the rhythm of breath. Each movement was calm, deliberate, and certain. The sea stretched before them like silk beneath the sky, soft and vast. In their stillness they found direction. In their listening they found the world opening. These were the first voyagers, not explorers in pursuit of discovery, but companions of the sea, moving with it, trusting its pulse, and drifting into the quiet mystery of distance. In the heart of the Mediterranean, surrounded by a sea that shimmered like glass beneath the sun, the Minoans lived in rhythm with the water. Their island rose from the waves like a polished stone, its harbours filled with quiet movement, sails unfurling, ropes creaking softly, oars dipping in perfect time. The air was scented with salt and wild herbs carried inland from the shore, and every sound seemed to echo the calm of the surrounding sea. Their ships were light and elegant, gliding across gentle waters as if guided by thought alone. They carried olive oil, pottery, woven cloth, and songs. Gifts of a people who understood both the patience of craft and the balance of trade. The sea was not their obstacle, but their companion. Its tides marked their calendars, its winds shaped their journeys, and its moods were studied as carefully as art. The Minoans sailed not to conquer, but to connect, tracing soft blue lines across the vast expanse between islands. In their homes and palaces, they celebrated the sea in color and form. On smooth walls painted with lime and earth pigments, dolphins leapt in arcs of soft blue, surrounded by coral and golden reeds. The creatures seemed alive, caught not in motion, but in serenity. Their colors were gentle, their lines fluid, as if drawn by water itself. Light fell across these murals like ripples on a pond, shifting throughout the day and breathing life into every curve. The ocean was their teacher, its patience reflected in their art, its grace in their daily lives. The rhythm of waves echoed through their architecture, stairways curved like currents, courtyards opened to the wind, columns rose with the ease of tides lifting from the shore. Even their pottery bore the sea's touch, spirals like shells, glazes like sunlight on water, shapes that swayed gently between earth and fluid motion. Life for the Minoans was not hurried. Their markets moved with quiet order, their festivals unfolded like the changing seasons. Music drifted through open windows, flutes, lyres, and the steady beat of drums that echoed the sea's slow pulse. They lived as though every breath were part of the tide, as though the boundary between land and ocean did not truly exist. At night, when the wind grew still and the moonlight danced upon the water, the harbour shone with lanterns, their reflections trembling like soft stars upon the surface. The people of Crete would sit by the shore listening to the sea's endless rhythm, the same sound that had guided their ancestors. In every vessel, every brushstroke, every song, the Minoans carried harmony. The perfect union between craft and nature, movement and calm. The sea sustained them, shaped them, and in time became their legacy. They were the masters of calm waters, the keepers of balance, their world forever entwined with the gentle breathing of the Mediterranean. Farther east, where the sea deepened into shades of sapphire and the coast stretched in quiet curves, the Phoenicians traced the shape of the water with their journeys. Their ships moved with grace, narrow and balanced, their sails full of soft wind. The creak of wood and the murmur of waves became their constant companions. Each voyage began not with haste, but with intention. A calm preparation, a slow merging with the rhythm of the tide. They carried more than goods upon their decks. Within their journeys flowed ideas, small sparks of knowledge that would drift from one shore to another. The sea was their bridge, their teacher, their silent path through time. As they sailed, they gathered stories, sounds, and symbols, weaving them into something that could be shared. At night, they followed the stars. The sky became their map, each constellation a familiar mark, each light a quiet guide. They read the heavens as one might read a scroll, tracing meaning from motion, harmony from distance. Their navigation was not driven by conquest, but by curiosity, an understanding that knowledge itself could travel as gently as wind over calm water. In the soft glow of dawn, when the sea turned silver and the oars dipped quietly in rhythm, the Phoenicians carried with them the beginnings of an alphabet, a simple, elegant code of sound and line. These symbols, born of trade and memory, would move beyond their ships, passed from hand to hand, from coast to coast, until they shaped the very way the world would one day write and think. Theirs was a voyage of connection, a spreading of thought as gentle as the tide. Each journey left behind more than footprints upon the shore. It left language, understanding, and light, carried forward by the calm persistence of the sea. Along the slow, gleaming Nile, the Egyptians learned the rhythm of water. The river wound through their world like a living thread, binding together fields, villages, and quiet horizons. Its surface reflected the sky in soft gold and blue, shifting with the passing light. Boats drifted between tall reeds that swayed gently, their shadows long and wavering across the current. The sound of wooden oars touching calm water created a steady pulse, unhurried, certain, eternal. They moved with the river's patience. Each bend was familiar, each breeze a companion. The flow of the Nile taught them timing, when to plant, when to harvest, when to rest. The people watched how the water rose and fell, how it shimmered beneath the sun, how it carried silt and life from distant lands. In its rhythm, they found a mirror for their own, a balance between motion and stillness, effort and ease. When the current widened, they followed it toward the open sea. The green banks began to fade, giving way to light and wind. The air changed, softer, salt-touched, vast. The water that had once been narrow and known now opened into endless blue, but to them it was not foreign. It was a continuation of the same pulse, the same breath that had shaped their lives along the river's edge. Their sails caught the wind, pale and curved, gliding toward the horizon. The sea stretched out before them, wide and calm, its surface rippling like silk beneath the sun. The Nile had led them here, from reeds to open water, from the gentle song of the current to the deep hum of the waves. And so the Egyptians found no ending at the shore, only expansion, a larger rhythm, a greater calm, where river and sea became one continuous flow. Across the vast Pacific, where the horizon seems endless and the light shifts between silver and blue, the Austronesians sailed, quiet and certain. Their canoes, long and graceful, glided across the surface like drifting leaves guided by unseen hands. The sea stretched before them in infinite calm, yet they moved through it with ease, guided not by instruments, but by the language of nature itself. They read the sky as others might read a song. The stars formed patterns that spoke of direction, distance, and season. Each cluster, each rising light held meaning. The night sky was their map, a living chart that moved and changed, yet always led them home. When the stars faded into dawn, they turned their eyes to the waves. The ocean's surface revealed its own signs, the shape of swells, the rhythm of foam, the color of the water beneath the sun. Every current carried a voice, and they listened. Birds circled above, their flight paths tracing invisible lines toward unseen islands. The Austronesians followed their movements with patience, knowing that each wingbeat held knowledge of land. Even clouds drifting in long, soft trails became signals, reflecting the warmth of islands hidden beyond the horizon. Nothing in their world was silent. Every motion, every pattern was part of a greater harmony. Their journeys were not hurried. They moved with the ocean's breath, matching its tempo, resting when it rested, sailing when it called them forward. The creak of wood, the hiss of water against the hull, the steady rhythm of paddles, all blended into one seamless melody. Each island they discovered became a note in the song of the sea, part of a vast memory carried in the minds of navigators. They passed this knowledge from voice to voice, from one generation to the next, never written, never lost, only remembered. Across centuries their paths still linger, invisible but unbroken, stretching across the Pacific like threads of calm light. The Austronesians, wayfinders of the ocean, sailed not to conquer the sea, but to move in harmony with it, to listen, to follow, and to belong. In time, the Greeks turned their gaze toward the sea with thoughtful precision. They watched the stars not only for beauty, but for guidance, tracing their movements with patience and care. The sea became a map to them, a vast mirror reflecting the patterns of the heavens. Each tide, each current, each shifting breeze became part of a grand design to be understood. Their sailors moved with quiet confidence, guided by geometry, by reason, by the rhythm of observation. They wrote of winds that circled the earth, of waters that rose and fell in steady measure. The sea was no longer mystery alone, it became order, a living system of balance and motion. The Greeks sought harmony in what they found, drawing lines between knowledge and nature, between what was seen and what was sensed. The Romans followed this current of thought, turning travel into craft and navigation into structure. Their ships, built with care and discipline, traced calm routes across the known world. They carried messages, voices, and understanding, each voyage expanding the quiet network of connection that bound the Mediterranean together. And yet, even in their mastery, they paused. At the edge of each journey, sailors would look toward the horizon, still, endless, and humbling. The waves rolled beneath them as they always had, soft and constant, reminding them that knowledge could measure distance, but never contain the sea. The sea connected them all, from the islands of the Minoans to the harbors of the Phoenicians, from the calm waters of the Nile to the wide Pacific, from the Greek shores to the Roman ports. Each civilization shared the same horizon, the same sky reflected in the same quiet waves. The ocean was their meeting place, their silent thread through time. Every voyage carried whispers from another shore, words, melodies, and ideas drifting gently across the water. The sea held these exchanges with care, blending them into one continuous current. Though their languages differed, their journeys spoke the same rhythm, the same patience, the same longing to understand the world through movement and stillness. The ocean was never a barrier. It was a bridge, soft, patient, eternal, a pathway of calm that joined distant lives through the steady pulse of the tide. The ships that crossed it left no mark upon its surface, yet their presence lingered, woven into its memory like ripples that never truly fade. Even now, as waves roll beneath distant stars, that rhythm continues. The sea breathes in and out, timeless and certain, its motion unchanged across centuries. Beneath its calm surface lies the memory of every oar, every sail, every silent dream that once passed across its face. The sea remembers, not in words, but in rhythm. It carries all things forward, softly, endlessly, until even time itself learns to rest. The education of ancient royals, stillness and learning. The room is quiet. Candlelight flickers against walls of polished stone, its glow soft and steady, spreading a golden warmth across the floor. The scent of ink and parchment mingles with that of wax and wood. Outside, night rests upon the world. Inside, time seems to slow. The sound of a page turning is almost the only motion in the chamber. It is light, unhurried, like a breath drawn in calm reflection. In the heart of these ancient halls, learning unfolds not as command or competition, but as quiet discovery. A tutor and student sit across from one another, both still, both attentive. Their words are low, their tone even. Knowledge here is not delivered, it is shared, drawn gently from silence. Between them lies the rhythm of thought, the pulse of patience. For the children of kings and queens, education was not only a duty, it was a kind of meditation. Each lesson was a movement toward understanding, every practice a measure of balance between thought and restraint. The light of the candle danced softly upon their faces, and in that light, knowledge grew not through pressure, but through calm repetition, through steady focus. The tutor's hand points toward the stars beyond the open window, tracing constellations unseen yet understood. In Babylon, long before the age of empires, scholars studied the heavens with the same quiet awe. They sat beneath the night sky, writing upon clay tablets as constellations turned slowly above them. Each star was a marker, each shadow a sign. They recorded what they saw, not for power, but for comprehension. Their observatories were not grand halls, but towers of silence, where the night wind moved between stones and the rhythm of the cosmos unfolded in patterns of light. In those moments, learning was observation, not conquest of knowledge, but a gentle listening to what the world revealed. The Babylonians understood patience, the way time speaks softly to those who wait. The flicker of a lamp, the movement of a planet, the slow, dependable rise of dawn, all became part of their education. Farther east, in the quiet courts of Persia, young minds were shaped not only by facts, but by virtues. They were taught to practice truth, clarity, and endurance. The Persians believed in balance, the evenness between word and deed, between decision and silence. Lessons unfolded in gardens where fountains murmured and cypress trees swayed lightly in the air. Students recited passages in calm tones, their voices blending with the wind. To learn was to refine oneself, to bring thoughts into order as carefully as one might arrange stones in a courtyard. A tutor might speak of endurance, not as struggle, but as stillness, the ability to remain composed while the world shifted around you. The students would listen, their posture upright, their faces illuminated by the soft reflection of water. The lesson was not about what to conquer, but how to remain balanced, how to think clearly, how to move through uncertainty with quiet conviction. Across the sea, in Greece, learning became an art of speech and thought. In shaded courtyards and marble colonnades, students gathered with their teachers, the sound of sandals soft against stone. They spoke not loudly, but rhythmically, exchanging ideas with the precision of dancers exchanging steps. Rhetoric, philosophy, mathematics. Each subject was a meditation on reason. They trained the mind as one might train the breath. Slow, deliberate, controlled. The Greeks saw knowledge as harmony. They believed that to understand the world, one must first understand the self. Not through emotion, but through observation. Their lessons began in silence and often ended in reflection. The hum of the city beyond their walls faded as ideas filled the air, measured and calm. Even when their words carried passion, they did not break the rhythm of composure. To speak well was not to speak loudly, it was to speak with clarity, to shape thought into sound with care. The Romans, inheriting this tradition, turned learning into structure. They valued discipline, seeing knowledge as a craft that could be shaped, refined, perfected. Within their villas and academies, scrolls rested in neat rows, each one containing centuries of calm observation. Tutors moved quietly between tables, their robes whispering across marble floors. The young nobles learned governance and logic, language and law, not as exercises of power, but as acts of precision. Each lesson carried the same principle. Order begins within. They practiced the art of writing with patience, each line drawn in ink upon parchment, each letter formed with balance. The steady scratch of stylus on wax echoed like a heartbeat through the quiet hall. Outside, fountains flowed softly, steady as the rhythm of study itself. The Roman scholar learned that mastery did not mean command over others, but mastery over one's own impulses, one's own thoughts. In the far lands of the east, where the mountains rose like folded silk and rivers wound through misted plains, the art of learning took on another form, one of harmony. In China, education was a path toward balance. The young scholars sat in rooms of paper screens and polished wood, their brushes poised over inkstones, their minds clear. The scent of pine and ink filled the air. They studied the movements of nature, the cycles of wind and rain, the grace of a crane lifting into flight. Their writing mirrored these motions, fluid, poised, alive with rhythm. Learning was not hurried. It was a slow unfolding of understanding, a patient alignment between heart and hand. In the calm repetition of characters, they discovered concentration. In the quiet reading of poetry, they found wisdom that did not need to be spoken aloud. To learn was to listen, to others, to the earth, to oneself. And so they practiced stillness as a way of thinking, harmony as a way of being. Farther south, in India, the pursuit of knowledge carried the same quiet dignity. In shaded courtyards surrounded by mango trees, teachers and students gathered in small circles. The lessons were soft, rhythmic, and continuous. The sharing of language, mathematics, astronomy, and philosophy woven together with patience. Knowledge was treated as a current, something to be absorbed gradually, like water seeping through stone. The students listened more than they spoke. They observed the stars reflected in river water, watching how light moved in ripples, how patterns formed and dissolved. Each lesson began and ended in quiet contemplation, for they believed that true learning required both understanding and restraint. The teacher's voice was low, the air filled with the faint scent of jasmine and ink. The sound of birds and distant bells marked the passing of time, the measure of a mind slowly awakening. Among all these civilizations, royal women too took part in the art of learning. Within quiet chambers draped in silk, they studied language and diplomacy with equal care. Their posture was graceful, their attention unwavering. They practiced the art of listening, of responding with precision and kindness. Theirs was a power expressed through composure, through words chosen carefully, gestures made with thought. They learned to write letters that bridged kingdoms, to speak in ways that calmed storms before they began. Their teachers guided them not toward domination, but toward understanding. A royal woman's strength lay in her silence, not absence of thought, but depth of it. She carried within her the same patience that guided the stars, the same quiet that steadied the sea. In these ancient halls of education, knowledge was never separate from character. To think clearly was to live gently. To reason well was to act with balance. Learning was a mirror, reflecting the discipline of the mind and the calm of the spirit. Lessons were not memorized in haste, but absorbed slowly through repetition, observation, and reflection. The sound of writing, the whisper of parchment, the faint rustle of robes. These were the music of education. As night deepened, lamps were lit one by one, their flames swaying softly in rhythm. The halls filled with a golden calm, and shadows moved gently along the walls. Tutors continued to speak in low voices, guiding thought through example rather than command. Students leaned over scrolls and tablets, their faces serene, their hands steady. Knowledge in this quiet setting became a shared act of stillness, the merging of thought, light, and breath. Each civilization carried its own method, its own rhythm, yet the essence remained the same. Learning as a harmony of attention and calm. Babylon measured the stars, Persia practiced truth, Greece and Rome shaped thought, China sought balance, and India found unity through reflection. Across all lands, in every chamber lit by candle or oil, the same silence wove through their lessons, the silence of concentration, of minds at work without haste. Education in these times was not noise but composure. It was the art of turning focus into understanding, patience into wisdom. The royal scholar learned that to lead was to first listen. To decide, one must first observe. Wisdom came not from instruction alone, but from the rhythm of study, the gentle persistence of effort made without struggle. As the candles burned lower, the air grew stiller. A scholar sits alone now, long after the lesson has ended. The tutor has gone, the others sleep. The parchment before him glows faintly in the remaining light. His hand moves slowly, dipping the quill into ink. Each stroke of writing is deliberate, graceful, as though the page itself breathes with him. The ink darkens, spreads, and begins to dry. Slowly, beautifully, like the settling of thought. Outside, the night holds steady. The stars above the palace trace the same paths they always have, silent and constant. Within the quiet room, knowledge continues to live, not as words alone, but as a calm awareness that fills the air. The scholar pauses, lifts his gaze toward the window, and watches the light tremble across the ink. He does not hurry to finish. Learning, he understands, has no end. It flows like the river to the sea, from one moment to the next, from one mind to another. It is the still flame that burns without consuming, the quiet that listens more than it speaks. And so the candle flickers, steady but soft, as the scholar lays down his pen. The ink glimmers faintly on the parchment, drying at its own pace. The silence deepens. Beyond the walls, the world breathes. Inside, the lesson endures. Patient, balanced, eternal. The thread of humanity. Across all the ages of the world, there runs a single thread, soft, continuous, and unbroken. From the flicker of firelight in the first caves, to the glow of lamps in royal chambers, from the rhythm of oars upon the sea, to the whisper of stars above still waters, it is the same story unfolding slowly, endlessly, with calm precision. Every life, every generation, has been part of this quiet weaving, a pattern formed not by conquest, but by endurance, by patience, by the gentle persistence of being. The first fires, the first hands shaping tools, the first voices learning to speak, all have drifted forward into the present, carried by time's silent current. The world has changed, yet the rhythm has not. It moves softly through us, as it once moved through those who came before. From Neanderthal to mariner, from scholar to dreamer, each has added a single, steady motion to the great tide of existence. Time flows like water, smooth and unhurried. It gathers what we have lived, what we have learned, and carries it forward. The past does not vanish. It becomes quiet light beneath the surface, guiding us without words. Each memory, each thought becomes part of that slow current, drifting onward, weightless and calm. Now, in this moment, you rest within it. The same rhythm that shaped the stars and the sea moves gently through your breath. The same silence that surrounded the ancient world surrounds you now. There is no need to reach, no need to seek, only to drift safely in the quiet flow of time. The current slows, the world softens, memory and motion dissolve into stillness. The thread continues, light and endless, and in that stillness the story of humanity rests, peaceful, patient, eternal.